I used to sit in my room, musty, gaming all day and doing nothing with my life. I felt lazy, lost, and numb. Now fast forward, and I'm in the same room. It is right now 6:11 a.m. and I am recording YouTube videos. I am consistent, focused, and finally proud of who I'm becoming. But what changed? Three simple, hard truths I stopped avoiding. In this video, I'm going to walk you through them because once you face these, you will flip the same switch I did and go from lazy to locked in. So the first truth I had to realize is that I could. I was reading Atomic Habits. This was years ago, like 5 years ago. And that was one of the first self-improvement books that had been put on. And I found it through TikTok. Like I was scrolling one day and this girl popped up and said, every person at 20 should read these 3 books. And Atomic Habits was one of them. I don't know why I bought it, why I felt inclined to buy it, but I did. And I remember reading that book literally changed my life because it showed me how to change my behavior as a human. It showed me how fundamental habits are, how to change your habits, how to form the good habits you want, how to change your identity. It literally gave me the blueprint, I feel like, for human living. And it was when I was reading that book that I realized, whoa, wait a second. I didn't know this. I didn't know that there is a whole loop to habits. I didn't know identity change mattered so much. I didn't know that you could shape your environment to influence you to do different things. I didn't know any of that. But for reading this book, it gave me all the tools needed. It gave me the knowledge. And that excited me because now I felt empowered. I felt like I could change. I felt like I had control because for so long I felt like I didn't. Do you know how many times I had tried to change my bad habits? I tried to stop gaming. I tried to stop eating bad food. I tried to stop making plans and not going through with them. But it felt like I was always pulled back to the same things. And I had no clue why until I read Atomic Habits, which showed me that those were just habits I needed to break and how to break them. That was the moment I realized that I could do more if I kept learning. Because I never learned how to change my behavior until I read Atomic Habits. Up until that part, it was a constant struggle. And life would be a constant struggle to you if you stop learning. That's why you've got to keep learning. That's why the people who are self-made millionaires, and I know you might not want to be a millionaire, but I'm just saying, the very successful people in terms of like monetary value, they read a book every week. They read 4 books a month, 3 to 4 books on average a month. But the average person, the minute they get out of high school, they stop learning. The problem with not learning anymore is that you don't realize what you can do anymore because you're not getting new information in. So you think that where you are right now is where you'll always be because you're not getting any new information telling you different. And that was me for the longest. I wasn't getting any new information telling me that I could change things. But the minute I started reading, that's when I realized I could. And I remember when I was working at Walmart, that was when I went through my biggest like self-improvement phase when I was working at Walmart. Because when I was at Walmart, I would be listening to seminars, I'd be listening to audiobooks, podcasts from great thinkers, 8 hours a day. I got so good at listening to audiobooks while working. Like I could stay focused while I was stalking. And if I heard something that was important to me, I would pull out a tiny notepad from like my vest and like write it down real quick, put it up, and get back to working. But that was an environment of learning. And that's where most of my growth came from. Just learning and learning and learning. And I know I'm saying this over and over again because I want you to understand that this is so important. Until you learn, until you become a student, you're not going to change anything. You're not going to feel empowered. Learning empowers you. So please, pick up a book, find a podcast, listen to a seminar, and I'll have some mindset resources. Go down to the video links and find something that's interesting to you and click on that, and it will start feeding some new information inside of your mind. Now, the second thing I realized was what I didn't want. So back when I was working at Walmart, I remember I had left and came back after 2 years. And when I came back, I realized the same people who I left were still working there, doing the same thing, working the same position, probably getting the same pay. And that really shocked me because 2 years have passed and nothing at Walmart had changed. I hadn't even changed. I literally went back to Walmart. 2 years passed. I was not better. I was at the same place, and really I was worse off. And then I looked at the older people, the people with gray hair on their knees, stalking things. And I realized, I don't want that. I don't want to be old having to still work to support myself, especially at a retail job that treats you like trash. I did not want that. That scared me. And so I used that as fuel. I said, okay, well, time is going to pass. And if I don't do anything, things aren't going to get better. So that means I've got to stay on my grind. I've got to keep improving my skills. I got to keep learning. I got to keep showing up. I can never quit, because if I do quit, I would literally glance at the old person stalking, and I would say that would be me. And I don't want that to be me. So I used what I didn't want as a why to keep going. Now I'm out of Walmart now. I got me an office job, and I will never trade that up. I'm so glad that I got that. But I would not have gotten that if I didn't use what I didn't want, the pain of what I didn't want, as a why, as a motivator to keep going. And some of us aren't doing that. I want you to be real with yourself. Look around at what you don't want. Like, look at it and think that if you don't tighten up right now, that's what your life is going to be like. Stop avoiding it, because your life is not going to just get better by itself. If you don't put in any effort, it's going to get worse. So why not look at what you don't want and use it as energy to put in the effort to get what you want? And over time, as you keep doing that, it'll be natural for you to just keep putting in the effort. So now you won't even need a why. I don't even really need a why anymore. I mean, at some days I do, but most days I don't, because it's just a habit for me to get up and work on something and to create and to learn, because I've done it so often. So it's not like you gotta do it all the time, but in the beginning, when you're like stuck and you're not making any progress, think about what you don't want, and using that as a motivator will be one of the best things you can do. And you can also use what you do want. You know, you can be motivated by the carrot hanging over you or the stick hitting you, but you gotta have some reason why. Third thing I want you to understand, and the third thing that I had to realize, was where I was going. So back to Atomic Habits, because this book changed my life. If you've never read Atomic Habits, I definitely recommend reading it. But in that book, James Clear, the author, described the 1% rule, which states, if you get better by 1% every day, by the end of the year, you'll be 37 times better. So your finances will be 37 times better. Your health will be 37 times better. Your social life will be, your relationships will be 37 times better. Your well-being, 37 times better. Anything you want, 1% better in a year, 37 times better. Now, if you don't get any better, then by the end of the year, you'll be worse off than when you started. Your finances will be worse off. Your health will be worse off. Your relationships will be worse off. Your well-being will be worse off by the end of the year. I remember when I read that like 5 years ago, I sat there, like I put the book down, I sat there and I thought, am I better off or worse off? And it slapped me in the face. I was not better off. I was not happy. I was going for a degree, an accounting degree I didn't care for. I was eating horribly. My health was declining. Like, I was not better. And I realized if I kept on this path, I was only going to get worse and worse and worse. And that scared me. Like, looking into the future and seeing that things weren't going to get better scared the mess out of me. And it made me realize I had no choice. And this is one of like the most fundamental whys for me that keeps me going. It's knowing I have no choice. The minute I stop, I'm going to go downhill. Because he didn't say, if you don't do anything, you'll stay the same. He said you're either going to go up or down. You're either going to go up or down. Nothing stays the same. And I don't want to go down. But if you don't do anything, then by default, you're going to go down. So I realized I got to start doing things. But luckily, I don't have to do a lot. All I got to do is 1% improvements. And if you're trying to figure out, well, what kind of 1% improvements can I make? I need some guidance. I need some help. If you want to work one-on-one with me, literally just go down to the first link in my description, click that, and we can get started helping you improve, work on your goals, all that good stuff. But literally, just think about how can you get better. For me, years ago, it was literally keeping my carpet swept, because I had a small rug in my dorm, and my Brita full of water. And I didn't think that would really do much for me, but it built my discipline. And then my discipline built other things started getting better along the way, just from those small changes. So it can be very small. 1% is very small. But if you commit to getting better by 1% every day, you will see by the end of the year that things have gotten better for you. So like back when I first answered that question, I told myself my life hadn't gotten better. But if I ask myself that question now, I can definitely say my life has gotten better. I mean, over the span of me getting better by 1%, I've improved my skills and self-improvement, and I feel like I'm borderline mastering it. I ghost wrote a book. I got a gig ghost writing a book for an entrepreneur who's been in business for like 20 years. I got coaching clients. I finally got, like, I went from not knowing anything about business to knowing about business and actually getting money online. Okay? I left the retail world of breaking down my body and working hard to having an office job where I can sit my feet up and just type on the computer. Like, things have gotten better for me because I started with these 1% habits and continued doing them. All right? So that's all you gotta figure out. Realize that you can achieve things, but the only way you're gonna realize that is if you keep learning from people who actually tell you new things. Realize what you don't want. Look around at what other people have and ask yourself, do you want that? And if you don't, use that as a motivator to keep going and realize where you're going. Has things gotten better for you or worse over the years? And be honest with yourself. Because if things have gotten worse, then you know what you need to do. Get 1% better. You've got this.